Okay, this is a new one for me. I was just sitting out in the garden, enjoying a nice day, and I was just reading a little piece on my phone here about David Attenborough. I've known about David Attenborough since I was a kid, because he's been big on British television with nature shows. He does a lot of good stuff. But what gets me about these people that do the nature shows is it's like I say about, I recently wrote an article about a guy in Labour Notes, or the Labour Notes, how they write about the trade union movement and the failings, and they never mention the Labour leaders. So it was the union. And Attenborough here is talking about humanity and how unless you curb humanity, the planet can't sustain us. We're consuming this, we're consuming that. Humanity is a plague on the world. Well, Attenborough's a very rich man. He comes from a wealthy family. He can fly around the world looking at insects and everything else and talk about how wonderful the world is and bring it to us on television. But it's typical of people from this background to talk about nature in this way and humanity in this way. But the average human being has no say in how society is organised, how food is grown, how the production of life is managed. We have no say in it, especially in the third world. They have even less say in it. So you get a liberal like him go to Brazil and photograph some peasant and asking him or her, what do you think about when you're doing this? Well, I'll tell you, they're thinking about breakfast and feeding their kids. They have no say. And if the only job coming by is cutting down a damn tree to get the immediate food needed to put their family, keep their family, they'll take it. So it's a bit sickening. And also there's a big danger with there, because he's a population growth guy. I know, and he's talking about cannot sustain the consumption. What are you talking about? I know families in this country, and where I live in the United States, I live on it myself, a plot of land really, that would probably feed 5 or 10 families in some parts of India or elsewhere. So, I mean, there's a very big danger when you're talking about overpopulation. Although he talks about it voluntarily, sex education, I'll tell you what normally happens. Women, poor women, and in our situation, in the former colonial world, poor women end up getting sterilised or getting a transistor for being sterilised. In India, they've offered young women, here's a transistor radio, whatever. You can get an iPhone if we sterilise you. So, you know, I feel like cussing. I don't do it generally on the blog here, or on the video, or in writing. But he can go F himself, Richard Attenborough, talking about humanity. There's no class question. He doesn't mention capitalism. We organise society in a certain way. We don't live in a feudal society. We don't live a tribal primitive communist society. We live in capitalist society. And that's what's to blame, and its adherents, those who run it, who govern it, who benefit from it, are to blame. Don't talk about humanity collectively. Some peasant in Brazil is as responsible as Warren Buffett. So don't talk about that like that. And that sort of annoyed me. He makes good shows, but there's a real limit to the shows. They end up very depressing because they have no solution except humanity's a plague. You know, shut up, David Attenborough, if that's all you're going to say about the future.